Hi everyone, welcome back to the CollabCast. I'm Katie Cusack, editor, and this is editor David King. Said that in a weird way, but it's totally fine. And we are here with the lovely D. Colin, a poet, author, and visual artist, and overall creator, which is, jack of all trades. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome. I wanted to start out by congratulating you on 3 years of Poetic Vibe at Troy Kitchen.
Yes.
It's been a really great foundation for poets and writers, spoken word artists, even musicians. A lot of people have come out of Poetic Vibe. So do you want to tell us a little bit about sort of how that got started and where it's come so far?
Well, Poetic Vibe is my third try for an open mic.
Wow.
I did an open mic a long time ago at Albany Center Gallery, and it lasted for one night. And then I tried it again, and I did a series called Between the Lines in Troy, and that started at Francesca's, and then we moved to Enchanté Tea House, both of which are no longer open in Troy. And then I was really looking for another space, and I saw Troy Kitchen was opening up, and Corey was building a stage, and someone tagged me in the picture, and I said, oh, okay. And so I went and I talked to Corey, and I was looking to do something monthly, and Corey was like, how about weekly? And I said, okay. That's a lot, but I'm gonna rise up to the challenge. And so I did, and we've been featuring poets regionally, locally, since then. Every week. And for anyone who organizes an open mic and features poets from anywhere, they know it's a lot of work. So I'm pretty on it to keep it going. I love Poetic Vibe. I love what I do there. I love bringing people together over poetry. Really happy that we're reaching 3 years now. We've basically been open. We've been running since Troy Kitchen's been open, basically, because Troy Kitchen's celebrating 3 years today. So, I'm really excited about that.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you came to the area from Connecticut for school?
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, in that time span, what kind of changes you've seen in the area and the creative environment. I mean, it seems like there's it's such a creative environment in Troy Kitchen and Troy in general now. We're seeing so many different artists try more. Is that sort of what you came to, or have you seen it grow a little bit?
I've definitely seen it grow a lot. And downtown has changed a lot as well. There are a lot of different shops that have opened up in the time that I've been living in Troy. And it's a nice, artsy, really just people know each other, kind of culture happening in Troy, which is nice. And in the first open mic, I tried that in Albany, and when I tried it in Troy, the crowd was a lot smaller. And now, you have to come early to get a seat at Troy Kitchen for Poetic Vibe. So it's really cool to see the progression and how things have grown. And this Poetic Vibe isn't the only open mic happening in Troy as well. There's Second Sundays at the Art Center, and then there's other things happening, music, open mics, and art shows. And so it's really cool. It's really cool to see the arts culture grow in Troy.
And how long have you been in the area now since coming for?
I came to Albany in 2007. Okay. I think I moved to Troy in 2011, something like that. 2012.
Nice.
Yeah.
So pretty fair amount of time in each city. And you're part of Cap City Slam as well, right?
Yeah, I last year I was on the team, and we went to nationals. We went to Chicago for the National Poetry Slam, which was really cool. I'm not on the team this year. They just determined the team recently. I didn't slam for it. I have a lot of different projects going on. so I was just taking a break from being on the team, but that's happening every month at Albany Barn. So that's really cool. We're at a different location, so being at Albany Barn is a really cool location.
Yeah, definitely. Really great artist space there, and really supportive community for sure.
Yeah.
So in terms of all the projects you have going on right now, I don't know if you want to just start by talking about a few of them that you're juggling off the bat.
Well, I just got commissioned by the New York State Writers Institute to offer a 10-week poetry workshop. That'll be weekly on Mondays.
Yeah.
That's easy to remember since
Right.
Poetic Vibe is also on Mondays.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about that because I get to share poetry and writing with other writers.
Yeah.
So that'll be awesome. I'm also finishing a thesis. It's a long story of like grad school and professors leaving and then having to, all that stuff. So I'm finally at the point where I can finish the thing. And so I'm working on that. And hopefully after I finish that, I can work on my second book. But yeah, those are the big major projects happening.
Yeah. You definitely dedicate so much of your time to poetry and writing and sort of building that community as well. You have like the Right Situation, which is another writing course for writers. How do you balance your time in that way?
How do I balance my time? That's a good question. Well, I try to make sure that I have time for like quality time with people I love. Even if I'm busy, I just want to make sure that there's some point in the day where I can just be, and I'm not really doing anything. So I spend a lot of time with Robert, who's my significant other. And when I get a chance to hang out with a friend, then I try to do that. Because that refills you,
Right.
Because you're putting out so much all the time. And so
Yeah.
like you have to kind of like refuel. And I do that with people. So.
I found your website to be, it's a resource in itself. You're offering a lot of information and education for folks who might want to be poets or writers, and I find that it's unique in some ways because some folks are so focused on themselves and their own thing, but you're also looking to, it seems like, advance the art in general. I'm wondering, obviously your courses or what you'll be doing with the Writers Institute and the open mic are both ways for people to get involved and to own their craft, but I'm wondering what other resources are out there for folks? Have you tapped into things in the area that have helped you? What would you, recommend?
I'm currently taking a class at the Art Center. It's called Business of Art Series.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to apply to get into the class. It's a group of 12 of us artists who take the class in 7-month commitment, and really like teaches artists how to manage the business side of being an artist, which is really usually not the thing that we want to focus on.
Right.
So that's been really helpful for me. And then I also applied for a grant through the Art Center, and I got, they offer three kinds. They have the Individual Artist Commission, they have the Community Arts Grant, and they have an Education in the Arts grant. And you can apply for any one of those things. I applied for the Individual Artist Commission and I got that. And I'll be using the funds to, at Poetic Vibe, we do a group poem every week. So I pass the paper around, and it's basically an exquisite corpse of poetry. And I've been collecting those. I'm editing them into an anthology.
Wow.
So those funds are going to help me do that. So there's grant money. There are classes that you can take in different locations. And it's really just about finding the information. A lot of it is you can Google and you'll find some things that are being offered in the area.
Right.
Yeah.
On top of clearly you're creating on a regular basis in terms of writing and working on your own projects, but how much time would you say you dedicate to finding those grants, or like going out for an award or a poetry contest, or trying to get your name out there and sort of working on that business aspect of your art?
I mean, that's part of the job.
Yeah.
I say I'm a poet because I write, but then writing is just part of it. I have to get the writing out there, and then I'm a big advocate for spreading poetry to make it as accessible as possible to people who maybe they never thought that they could write a poem, or maybe they didn't think that they'd enjoy hearing poetry, you know. And so I'm a big advocate for pushing that and making it accessible to everyone. So that's part of it too, you know, is the writing, but then also being able to connect with other people and share what I do and maybe inspire them to kind of do it themselves. That's a big part of who I am.
What is it about poetry that originally like drew you as an artist? Like you were like, this is what I have to be a part of.
Well, I wrote my first poem in 6th grade, and it was an assignment on metaphor and simile, and we had to incorporate metaphor and simile in the same poem. And so I don't remember the poem. I don't know if it exists somewhere in my mom's basement or wherever it is. But I compared craters on the moon to sand dunes because I was watching a Boyz II Men video. And anyway, so I wrote the poem, and my 6th grade teacher posted my poem up on the bulletin board. I got 100 on it. And it felt really good. It felt really good to use my imagination and compare things that were unlike each other. And then it turned into a thing where I could kind of like express myself emotionally. I would go through something and I'd write it down and I'd make it a poem, and it helped me heal from things that I went through as a teen. And then I majored in psych when I was in college, and I was like, oh, I don't think this is for me. And so I changed my major to English, and I felt right at home. You know, writing has been an outlet for me in so many ways.
It's actually my trajectory. I went to school for psychology and then switched to English. But I feel like a lot of the courses I had at UAlbany, the really good ones, certain professors were so good at explaining how to, you know, whether it's deconstruction or whatever it is, about breaking down the meaning of words and what they contain, and then, you know, there were other classes that were more about exploring words and your history and your cultural significance and things like that. That really, in some ways, they weren't psychology, but they were more about understanding the world and what words mean and what they mean to you and what they mean to other people. That in some ways felt to me, you know, I mean, it's the same thing. In some ways, you're breaking down on the way the human mind processes these complex phrases or you know, concepts. So, Dreaming in Creole, your book, though, I mean, it looks so much into cultural history. So I'm wondering, like, how much of that was brought on by your art, or was it something that's always been with you, your curiosity about?
I mean, I think that I was always searching for identity and what that means. When I was in middle school, I read Toussaint Louverture's biography. It was a book on my father's shelf, and it was written in French, and I read it anyhow. And I didn't understand the whole thing, but I knew that he was important. I knew what he fought for. And it was a piece of my history that I wasn't learning in school. And there was a lot of history I wasn't learning in school, you know. And so I would go and find it other places. And then, you know, my first trip to Haiti that I could remember, I was 13, and that really changed my life. Wow. I was able to really see a whole country that looked like me, and that left a big impression on what I thought about my own beauty, what I thought about my own resilience, what I thought about what it meant to push through a day, what it meant to smile despite circumstance. You know, there's a lot of, you know, and I came home and I remember very distinctly that when we got into the house, my mom was cracking up because I went to the fridge and I said, "Thank you, fridge." And then I went to the bathroom and I said, "Thank you, shower." And, you know, there was just so much that we take for granted. Yeah. And, you know, every trip to Haiti, you know, brings me back to that connection of like who I am, where my family's from, what does that mean? What does my blackness mean? Yeah. And then how can I share that with others, you know, because when we tell our stories, we connect with other people because they also have stories, and sometimes they don't have the words for their stories, but they'll hear yours and they'll see, oh, okay, I'm not so different, and oh, okay, I'm from a whole different culture, but we've kind of gone through some similar things here, you know. So that's the importance of stories, is really about human connection. And it's about finding your voice, and in order for other people to be able to kind of connect with their own voice. Yeah.
How often do you go back to Haiti? Do you find, like, when you do go back, as this is two questions, when you do go back, are there certain things that you're sort of searching for and things you want to explore?
It's been a while since I've gone. The last trip was 2014, so I'm really due for a trip. I don't think I ever really looked for anything. I think the last trip, I knew I was writing Dreaming in Creole, and the timing of the trip and me writing the book was perfect. So I was really, really present in a way that I wasn't present before. Just making observations and really, you know, looking and talking to people and that kind of thing. So, and also that was the first trip that there were a lot of elders that I used to visit in Haiti that, you know, they're not here anymore. So that was a very different kind of trip. And it was my grandfather had passed away. So there's a lot of different, like, emotions happening on my last trip. But I got the title for my book while I was there, because I literally dream in Creole when I'm in Haiti. So, and I can't remember the second part of your question.
I know, I think you answered both at the same exact time. No, it was great. In terms of working on your second book, which I know you're waiting to do when you finish this massive thesis project that you're working on, which also has to do with, you know, translating that in Haitian language, and, you know, like, you're still kind of in that world. Are there any lessons that you learned from writing your first book that you're, like, excited to just kind of maybe breeze through, or, like, know that it's going to be less of a hurdle for your second book?
Yes. I'm going to hire an editor. It's really hard to edit yourself. You know, I write and then I revise and I revisit poems and I take lines out and that kind of thing. But when you type everything up, you don't want to read the whole thing. And so that's like a hard process for me. And I'd rather somebody else read the whole thing. And, hey, here's my feedback. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Now I can go incorporate this feedback. So yeah, that's my major thing, is I don't know that I want to do that part of it myself again. But yeah,
have that different perspective too, which is, like, important. Kind of have to, like, step away from yourself as a writer. It can be super challenging. And is that's part of sort of the things that you're teaching in this upcoming course at the Writers Institute, right? Like, sort of like what it's like to put together a book. I know I read stuff about, like, little things that people don't think about, like ISBN and those things.
So I did the Right Situation. The last one was focused on self-publishing, and I just laid out all everything. The things, you know. what is an ISBN, you know, and then, you know, what is it to get a copyright for your work, what is it to, like, put the manuscript together, and then what do you need outside of the manuscript? Like, there's all this other stuff that comes before it. People actually read the content of your book, and then there's the stuff in the back, and then what is it to design a book cover? You know, what are your options to do that? Then where do you print your book? Where do you get your book printed? You know, make sure you get a barcode. Assign your ISBN with it. So we went through all the details. Because I kind of, like, searched all that information on my own, and I did it on my own, and I did it myself. And I did a lot of research before going through and, you know, putting the book out. And sometimes it's just nice to have somebody who's done the process to just, you know, share the process with people who are trying to do the same thing, but they don't really know where to start, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Where can people find your first book, Dreaming in Creole?
You can find it at the Open Door Bookstore in Schenectady, and you can also find it at Market Block Books in Troy.
Wow.
And then it's also on Amazon.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good to know it's like actually you can go pick it up, which is always a good feeling.
Or you can just come to Poetic Vibe at Trick Kitchen and I might have a coffee with me.
Are there books that you're reading right now that are just like super inspiring to you?
Oh, I just finished it's the Breakbeat Poets Volume 2, Black Girl Magic, and it's edited by Mahogany Brown and Jamila Woods, and there's one more editor that I can't remember right now. I think Idrissa. It's really good. Yeah, I was just like, oh, I can see myself in so many of these poems. It was great.
Yeah.
So I just finished that. What I read before that was Pride by Ibi Zaboy. I read that because I had to introduce her at the Writers Institute. She came to the Writers Institute. That was really cool.
Oh, very cool.
And I met her years ago at a workshop that I was at in Berkeley. So it was really nice to reconnect with her.
Yeah.
But that was a great book too. It's like a remix of Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. But it's set in New York City.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome. Do you have any advice for writers? Because I know this has come up a few times where it's like it's just such a connective art form in terms of storytelling. Maybe writers who feel like they're not comfortable sharing that part of themselves, or they're scared to share that part of themselves. Maybe people won't understand.
It's hard to be vulnerable, but I find that in my most vulnerable moments, there's always one person. There's always at least one person who wants to be as vulnerable as you just were on stage, and they can't for whatever reason. And because you said the thing that you said, now they go home with this like whatever inspiration, or they feel empowered now to maybe write something down. And even if they don't share it, they got it out of their system somehow. You know, they start the process, right? And so I tell people, usually, so a lot of people come to Poetic Vibe and they say, yeah, I want to write, but I'm not sure about my writing, and you know, I don't really sound a certain way or what. I'm like, no, that's not what it is. Your voice is your voice. And sometimes we get in our heads what poetry is supposed to sound like, or you know, what a performance should look like. You know, and I tell people all the time, read your poem. You know, read your poem, but it comes from you, and you have to kind of it takes practice, and it takes doing it over and over again to really kind of like peel away the layers and really find your voice, you know. But you gotta just kind of get in there and do it. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. And people can come to Poetic Vibe every Monday, 7 p.m.
Yep. 7 p.m. is when sign-up starts. So if you'd like to sign up and share a poem or two, you can sign up at 7. Awesome. And then I start the show at 7:30.
Great.
Yeah.
And the Writers Institute, is there a way to get involved in that program?
Yes. So on their website, it's the Community Writers Workshop.
Okay.
And it lists all the details, the application process and everything.
Very cool.
Yeah, and the deadline.
Yeah,
which is
very important.
April 11th. So that's coming up.
Yeah, very soon. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.